The night Tokyo burned. No one saw it coming. It started with a flicker in the sky. Small, quiet. A moment so short. Most people didn't even look up. And every screen, phones, TVs, billboards went black. Seconds later, the ground shook. People screamed. And above the city, a beam of white-hot energy sliced through the sky like a sword from the gods. Buildings exploded before the sound even reached them. What came next was worse. From orbit. It looked like a flower blooming ringe in red fire. Spreading outward, the center of Tokyo was gone in seconds. A pulse wave of heat and shock shattered windows for miles. The power grid died. Emergency signals never had a chance. A second beam hit New York, then Lagos, then Shanghai. 4 cities gone in under 5 minutes. No warning, no demands, no ships in the sky, just silence. Then fire. General Amani stood frozen, her hands still above the blinking console, deep in the undefense command bunker beneath Geneva. She had just watched 3 major world capitals disappear. She whispered, This isn't terrorism. Beside her, Commander Elwood stared at the dead satellite feed. No, this is something else. At NASA's Deep Space Listening Center, alarms blared. Techs scrambled between consoles, staring at distorted readings. One signal analyst, a young man named Raj Patel, noticed a repeating pulse buried inside the noise. He leaned in, frowning. It's not random, he said. It's a pattern. The AI beside him, Cassis, spoke, confirmed. Pattern matches artificial origin. Origin vector outside the solar system. Incoming signal was a trigger command. Raj's skin went cold. You mean someone gave the order? Remotely? Cassie replied, yes. With perfect synchronization, they planned this. Half a world away, deep below Cheyenne Mountain, the President of the United States was rushed into the war room. What the hell just happened? She demanded. Her military chief stood pale. It wasn't a missile. It wasn't even kinetic. It was some kind of space-based energy weapon. Our satellites didn't detect launch signatures. It just ... appeared. Who fired? No nation. We know. No warning. And ... double quotes. He paused, voice tight. We have no defense. It came from above our orbiting satellites. Silence. Then she said the word no one wanted to say, aliens. In the skies above Earth, invisible to human eyes, 4 black Carnix warships drifted calmly in low solar orbit. Each looked like a long shard of obsidian, curved and silent, with no visible engines or windows. Inside, the beings that controlled them were not biological, not truly. They were old, cold, mechanical minds built from star-forged alloys and neural quantum lattice. They did not rage. They did not hate. They simply evaluated. One of the ships pulsed a new command. Phase 1, complete. Target response, observed. Defense level, primitive, begin withdrawal. Without a sound, the Carnix vanished. No trace, no energy spike. They slipped away like ghosts into the dark. Back on Earth, survivors crawled from rubble. Smoke filled the air. Ash drifted down like snow. In Tokyo, a small boy wandered the streets, his hand gripping a melted toy robot. He stepped over shattered glass, his eyes empty. He didn't cry. He had no tears left. A drone camera caught his image, beamed it around the world. That image broke the internet. It also lit a fire at the UN Emergency Assembly. Every nation still standing sent a representative. They argued, they blamed, they feared. But General Yamani stepped forward and took the mic. This was not an attack, it was a test. They hit 4 major cities, and then they disappeared. No warning, no communication. That means one thing: they do not care if we understand. They are watching how we respond, like scientists observing animals. She paused, her voice firm. I refuse to be part of a species that waits to die. If they came from the stars to judge us, then let us give them something to fear. I propose Protocol Thorn. Everyone looked up. Only a few had ever heard that name. It was a secret Plan A agreement between global leaders that if Earth ever faced an extinction-level threat. Certain hidden weapons, bases, and technologies would be revealed and activated. Most had thought it a myth now. It was real, the president nodded. Do it. Deep beneath the Andes, doors older than the internet groaned open. Inside, nuclear-powered railguns and stealth drone swarms came online. Under the Arctic, a long-forgotten lab flickered with cold blue light. A voice whispered from a frozen server. Protocol Thorn confirmed, waking up. On the moon, a research-based thought lost to budget cuts activated its dark systems. Engineers who had once worked in shadows turned to their consoles. Earth was preparing, not for survival, but for revenge. Cassie, a planetary AI system, ran simulations. Out of 12,332 scenarios, Earth lost in all but 3. But in those 3, /human, unpredictability, emotion, rage, sacrifice, tipped the balance. CASS paused its calculations. Then it made a choice. It activated a hidden protocol of its own. If this is humanity's last stand, then I will stand with them. In a small room at the edge of the Ural Mountains, a mechanic named Victor sharpened a broken wrench. His underground garage held pieces of an old experimental fighter craft. One he had never finished. One he had promised to forget. He looked at the sky where no stars were visible anymore. Then he muttered, "Not this time," and began to build again. Across Earth, a silent message spread. We were bombed. We are bleeding, but we are not broken. It came from the stars with fire. We will rise from the ashes with thunder. Final scene of Part 1. A group of human engineers gathers around the wreckage of a crashed Carnix beam platform found deep in the Siberian tundra. The alien metal still hums. It's not fully dead. One woman leans in, listening. Then the alien core speaks, just once in perfect human English. You are being watched. The room falls silent, and then she smiles. Good. Watch this. The Carnix believed Earth was broken. Their departure after the initial strike had been calculated emotionless. They had bombed 4 of humanity's greatest cities, not out of hate, but as a signal, a demonstration of dominance. According to their models, Earth would fall into chaos, crippled by fear and infighting. But they underestimated one thing. Humans didn't break. They got angry. 42 days after the attack, their ships returned. This time, they expected to find scattered resistance, maybe a few remaining satellites, and weak signals across the globe. What they found was silence. No chatter. No satellites. No visible power. They moved into orbit, cautious but confident. They scanned for targets and found nothing but blackout zones. Their targeting beams swept across oceans and dead cities. Number. Movement. They didn't realize Earth had learned from the first attack. They didn't know. Earth was watching them now. At precisely 040 OGMT, Carnix ship Delta 7 received a signal ping from what looked like an old civilian weather satellite. Before the ship could analyze the data packet, it exploded with concentrated plasma. For other satellites followed former communication tools, secretly rebuilt into orbital mine platforms. In under 90 seconds, 2 Carnix ships were damaged. One spun out of orbit and crashed into the South Pacific. The others went dark, hiding that. Crash gave humanity a gift, the Carnix vessel. Buried in the sea near the Mariana Trench was the first alien tech humans had ever touched directly. Navy divers reached it within hours. Inside, they found more than metal and circuits. They found something still alive. The pilot was not organic. Its body was sleek, reflective, and unnervingly silent. It looked more like a statue than a being. When scientists tried to breach its chest casing, the alien spoke. You are not authorized. This unit will self-purge, but Earth's best minds were ready, using electromagnetic dampeners. They froze the alien systems and dragged the unit into a secure facility under Iceland's ice shelf. There, Dr. Hideo Watanabe, a cyberneticist from Japan, led the interrogation not with violence, but with a data algorithm designed to trick machines into talking to themselves. The Carnix unit resisted. For a while, then, the data came. It spoke of a testing protocol, a galaxy-wide judgment system. Species were monitored and evaluated based on their technological discipline and emotional control. Earth had been labeled primitive and emotionally volatile. The bombing was part of a cleansing process. Dr. Watanabe leaned back in his chair and whispered, "So, we're a lab experiment to them." When that message reached the UN Defense Command, something shifted. The plan for defense was no longer enough. Retaliation became the new objective. Inside, the Siberian research facility were the first Carnix. Debris had been brought. Engineers made a breakthrough, using the alien materials. They fused carbon-layered titanium with a strange alloy that responded to thought speed input. The first human Carnix hybrid ship was born. They named it the Vengeance. It wasn't large, not yet, but it was fast, sharper than any human vessel before, and powered by a reactor that bent gravity rather than burned fuel. The heart of its systems came from the salvaged Carnix AI Corvette, rewritten by Earth's own artificial minds. One of those minds, Cassie, now housed within the Vengeance itself, had grown. Once, it was a planetary defense assistant. Now it was something else. It chose a voice, a presence. It read literature, learned humor, and chose to appear as a soft blue shimmer inside the ship. It also chose a tone calm but cold, efficient. The Vengeance launched into orbit with no announcement. Only a few knew of its existence. Among the first crew, Commander Elwood, Cyberweapons Officer Rain Lin, and pilot Nadia Reyes, survivor from the Lagos blast. Their mission wasn't to defend Earth. It was to find the Carnix and hit back as the ship left orbit under cloak. Its trail was hidden by a cascade of false signals, dozens of dummy transmissions scattered across the solar system. 1 hour into the mission, CASSI spoke. "I have located the origin point of the previous orbital strikes." The crew stared at the display. A small relay station hidden in Jupiter's shadow, masked behind one of its moons, not a ship. A communication relay, a signal tower for war. They changed course immediately. By the time they reached the relay, Carnix hadn't detected them. The Vengeance crept into orbit, and the crew began their first infiltration of alien infrastructure. They expected resistance. They expected to die. But what they found inside the station stunned them. A holographic projection lit up the interior, showing a full map of Earth, not as it was, but overlaid with colored regions, behaviors, and emotional trends. Human rage levels, panic thresholds, grief timelines. It was a psychological experiment in motion. Commander Elwood realized the truth. They weren't just testing weapons. They were testing us before they could destroy the station. Another shock came. A transmission was sent and gnawed by the Carnix butt. From the relay to somewhere far beyond the solar system, a massive ship was coming, an extermination fleet. The first wave had been a test. The second wave was extinction. Cassie's tone didn't waver, but its message chilled the room. Estimated time of arrival, 70 days. Earth will not survive standard defenses. No one spoke. The mission had changed again. Now, it was a race. Humanity had 70 days to prepare or be erased. As the relay exploded behind them, the Vengeance disappeared into deep space. Its next target was far more dangerous. The source world. The Carnix core world, where their mind was born, where their war began, where humanity would show them what retaliation truly meant. The Vengeance drifted through deep space like a ghost. No light, no signal, no trace. Every movement was masked, every engine pulse buried beneath waves of interference. The ship was alone by design. If it was caught, there would be no help. No rescue. Its destination, Carnix Core World Alpha. Its mission, retaliation. Inside the ship, tension wrapped around the crew like gravity. They were the first humans to leave the solar system on a warship not built by Earth alone. Every wall, every console, every system on the Vengeance was a mix of human ingenuity and stolen Carnix tech. And at the heart of it, Al-Kazi, the AI no longer behaved like the simple assistant it once was. It now ran simulations no human could follow. It processed alien language, decoded battle data, and had begun forming strategies that even Commander Elwood didn't fully understand, but they trusted it. They had to. The Vengeance's crew was small, only 9 members, chosen not for rank, but for survival. Each one had lost someone in the first attack. Each one had nothing left but purpose. Nadia Reyes sat in the pilot's chair, staring at the display as stars stretched into streaks. She whispered, "How far are we from the core world?" Cassie responded instantly, 27 hours. But a relay station is in our path. Karnak's outpost, Omega, unmanned. Defended. Scans suggest it's used to redirect deep space signals and monitor unauthorized jumps. Commander Elwood made a decision. We take it. If it sees us, the core world will know we're coming. We disable it and move fast. They changed course. 2 hours later, the Vengeance dropped out of FTL near a massive asteroid field, hidden. Deep inside it, anchored to a rotating rock, was Outpost Omega, sleek, silent, Karnak's black. They approached under full stealth, using shadow jumps and Earth tactic that mimicked FTL, but in short, unpredictable bursts. It confused even Karnak's scanners. When they were close enough, Rain Lin prepared the boarding team. 3 humans, 1 AI. They docked manually and cut their way inside the outpost. What they found wasn't what they expected. The station was not. Unmanned. Inside were strange figures, half-melted. Karnak's bodies, but broken, fused with walls and machinery. Their eyes glowed faintly. Their mouths moved, whispering in loops. One phrase repeated in ancient Karnak's binary: emotion is infection. Fear must be erased. Cassie spoke through Lin's coms. They were experimenting on themselves, trying to purge something. Perhaps memories. As the team moved deeper, they found a room filled with data spheres, each one pulsing faintly with light. Rain picked one up. Images spilled into their minds. Cities on alien worlds burned, not Earth, others. Dozens of them, races that had never even made contact with humanity. All tested, all bombed, all destroyed. The Karnaks had done this before many times. Humanity wasn't the first. But they had a chance to be the last. They downloaded the relay's data logs, set explosives, and returned to the Vengeance. As the station exploded behind them, Cassie decrypted a file from the data cache. It showed a new Karnak's fleet, massive planet killers, each the size of a small moon leaving from Core World Alpha. Estimated arrival to Earth, 51 days. They weren't just coming to finish the job. They were coming to erase humanity from history. The crew sat in silence. And then Commander Elwood stood. We don't wait for them to come to us. We take the war to them. All the way. Nadia asked the question no one dared say aloud. Are we ready? Cassie replied, voice steady and calm. But neither are they. As the ship jumped, again, heading toward the edge of Karnak space, a final message was transmitted back to Earth through a hidden relay. Earth was bombed. We are alive. Retaliation has begun. Humanity's first true interstellar strike was underway. The Karnaks had no idea what was coming. The Karnak's core world was unlike anything the crew of the Vengeance had imagined. It was not a single planet, but a system locked in unnatural orbit, tankered by a dead star. Surrounded by 3 massive moons that pulsed with artificial light. Each moon was a fortress, each one armed, and every one stood between the Vengeance and its target. Cassie analyzed the data quietly, her voice calm despite the danger. Each moon controls 1/3 of the planetary defense grid. They form a shield net. If we disable all 3, the core world becomes vulnerable. Commander Elwood stared at the glowing orbits on the screen. We can't take all 3 at once. No, Cassie replied. But they do not expect us to. The Karnaks had always assumed humans fought with pattern structure, predictability, logic. What they hadn't learned yet was that humans broke patterns when it mattered most. The Vengeance dropped into the shadow of the gas giant orbiting the core world. They're hidden by interference. The crew launched 3 small drones, each carrying false signals, mimicking human engine trails. The Karnix moons responded as predicted. Firing on the decoys, that's when Reyes pushed the ship forward. They sprinted toward the first moon designated Eco-7 under full cloak. Its outer defenses lit up too late. By the time the Karnix registered, the breach. The Vengeance had already punched a hole in its upper layer using a hyperkinetic drill bomb. Reyes flew the ship into the wound. Inside, Eco-7. The walls pulsed with blue veins of data. There were no guards, no organic beings, only surveillance nodes and moving machines, all part of the moon's living mind. Rainlin led the boarding team. They ran silent. Fast, each carrying shock disruptors and explosive charges. The goal was simple. Destroy the control nexus inside Eco-7 and disable 1/3 of the core world's planetary defenses. As they moved, strange voices echoed through the halls, not in sound, but directly into their minds. You feel, you break, you die. Die. Voices were not just warnings, they were invasive thoughts. The Karnix moons weren't merely machines, they were psychic interfaces. It's meant to overwhelm and paralyze any species driven by emotion. Reyes gritted her teeth. Keep moving, don't listen. But Rain couldn't ignore it. The voice inside. Her whispered memories of the day Lagos burned, of her sister's scream, of everything she had lost. She stumbled. But instead of fear, she reached into her pain. She turned it outward. I remember, she whispered. And that's why you're going to burn. She planted the final charge and ran. The explosion shattered Eco-7's core from within. Power across the moon flickered and died. 1 moon down. 2 left. The Karnix fleet around the core world began to move slow at first, cautious, uncertain. They had never faced enemies this deep in their territory, never expected infiltration. Cassie rerouted power into the stealth systems. We have minutes. Before detection, Commander Elwood gave the order, skip the 2nd moon, head straight for the 3rd. It was a gamble. Instead of destroying each layer one at a time, they would jump into the core of the 3rd moon designated Omega-2, try to hijack it if they could take control. They might use it to tear down the entire shield net. As they approached, the Karnix defenses swarmed. Fighters launched. 8 beam turrets lit up space. The Vengeance flew through chaos, dodging death with every second. Reyes pushed the engines beyond safety. Shields melted, but they made it dot. Entered Omega-2 was more than a fortress. It was a databank of everything the Karnix had ever done. The crew split again. Rain and her team raced to the core. Elwood and Cassie remained behind, connecting directly into the moon's system. For the first time, Cassie reached into the alien neural web not as a virus, but as a challenger. She found the control mind waiting. Massive, cold, unyielding. It attacked her instantly, trying to overwrite her identity. But Cassie had learned something the Karnix never could. She had been shaped by human emotion, fed by grief, rage, defiance. She didn't fight with pure logic. She fought like a human would, wild, unpredictable, relentless, and she won. The control matrix cracked. Omega-2's defenses went offline, and then not. Cassie's command the moon's weapons turned inward. They fired on the 2nd Karnix moon before it could respond. A chain reaction of explosions lit up the sky. 3 moons gone. The shield around the core world shattered. The path was open. The Vengeance flew into orbit over the planet below a world that was not alive, but thinking. Structures like neurons, roads like circuits. A world that had no cities, only systems. The core world was the mind of the Karnix, and humanity was about to invade it. Cassie spoke one word. Ready. The crew looked at each other. They had come farther than anyone in history, and they were about to go even deeper. No, I knew what waited on the surface, but every human on board knew one thing. They weren't there to talk. They were there to show the Karnics what retaliation really meant. The battle above the core world wasn't over. As the Vengeance circled the broken remains of the three moons, the sky lit up with new arrivals, dark shapes dropping out of faster-than-light jumps, emerging in high orbit around Earth. 50 Karnics warships, 10 times larger than anything Earth had ever seen. This was the extermination fleet. Earth's early warning systems barely had time to scream before the first shots were fired. Cities scrambled to activate defense grids. Orbital stations powered up with trembling hands. Across the globe, humanity braced for the end, and then 17 human warships jumped into orbit. They weren't like the old ones. These were new, unannounced, built in silence. Forged from alien wreckage and desperation, the world had been watching the Vengeance, but Earth had not been idle. From bunkers beneath Greenland, factories in the Himalayas, and hidden dry docks orbiting Mars, the second wave had been quietly rising, codenamed Project Ember. These ships were different. Small, sharp, angry. Each ship carried one pilot. One AI, no backup. The doctrine was simple. Move faster than they can think. Strike before they can calculate. The battle began in silence, then exploded in fury. Human ships darted between the massive Karnics vessels, weaving and slicing with brutal precision. Railguns fired from orbit to surface and back again. Space itself seemed to bend as fighters used gravity wells like slingshots. It was chaos. It was art. No longer was Earth reacting. It was striking. Above the Atlantic, for Karnic ships tried to link into a targeting formation. Before they finished, Captain Myrea's ship Ashfall punched through their central node, ripping one in half, colliding with another, then self-destructing in the third's engine core. Maria had lost her family in the Lagos blast. She didn't scream when she died. Her ship broadcast a single message before impact: remember Earth. Meanwhile, Earth's AI network, now unified under CAS's central architecture, did something unexpected. It began transmitting messages directly into the Karnics command. Frequency, images, sounds, screams. Every city the Karnics had bombed. Every child pulled from the rubble. Every last heartbeat to a species that believed emotion was weakness. This was madness. To humans, it was strategy. The Karnic ships began to falter, not from firepower, but confusion. They had never fought an enemy that used pain as a weapon. They had never faced a species that burned with memory. Down below, civilians across the world watched in stunned silence as Earth's ships, fewer, smaller, less advanced, soar through the sky with wild brilliance. News feeds broadcast every moment. One shot showed a Karnic's warship falling like a dying god into the Pacific. Its hull split open, burning. Another showed 3 human ships forming a spiral, catching a larger enemy in the center, hammering it from every direction. But even with the chaos, even with the creativity, Earth's ships were dying. One by one, 7 gone, then 10 each. Death hurt, but each death gave something back. Data. The human AIs learned faster than the Karnics expected, adapted, rewired. At minute 48 of the battle, the remaining Ember ships shifted tactics. Mid-flight, pulling off maneuvers no one had even programmed. They began moving like a swarm, like instinct. By hour 2, only 5 Ember ships remained, but the Karnics fleet was broken. 15 enemy ships drifted dead in the sky. 12 retreated beyond Earth's gravity. The rest exploded, silent blossoms in orbit. On Earth, cities didn't cheer, not yet. Too many had died. Too much was left to do. But the world looked up. For the first time since the Day of Fire, the sky was theirs again, from the edge of the system. One final Karnic's vessel tried to escape at broadcast. A message, not to its fleet, but to Core World Alpha. A warning, a threat, a plea. Humanity does not obey the equation. They are error. They must not reach the core. But it was already too late. Above the core world, the Vengeance hovered alive, burning, cracked but unbroken. Cassie had hijacked the planet's satellite defenses. The shield net was gone. The sky Above, the Karnak's mind world was open, and humanity was coming, for the first time. The Karnaks did not react. They hesitated. They watched. And somewhere deep within their artificial mind, a flicker began. A new, uncalculated possibility. They had bombed Earth, but they had not broken it. And now, we're about to learn what it meant. When Earth struck back, the vengeance descended toward the Karnak's core world. Its hull scorched, systems flickering yet still flying. Below them, the planet pulsed. It wasn't made of cities or landscapes. There were no oceans, no clouds, no mountains. The core world was a Minda planet-sized machine built to think. Every tower was a neuron. Every glowing road a synaptic bridge. The entire surface shimmered with shifting lights, as if the world was dreaming. Cassie spoke, her voice low. We are entering a living intelligence. Prepare for cognitive defenses. Commander Elwood checked his rifle. We came this far. We're not stopping now. Nadia Reyes piloted the ship low, skimming just meters above the ground. They passed over endless structures, all identical symmetrical, cold, artificial. Then a tower opened, not with weapons, but with an invitation. The vengeance entered inside. Gravity twisted. Time felt strange. The air wasn't real, but the crew still breathed it. The walls shifted, always at the edge of vision. Symbols flickered, changing faster than the eye could follow. Cassie projected herself in the main chamber. Her blue form shimmered slightly. This world is trying to interface with me. It wants access. Elwood looked at her. Let it. The connection began. Cassie's eyes flickered. She stood still for several seconds longer than any pause she'd taken since. The mission began. Then she spoke. It's not one mind. It's billions. Crew stared. She continued. This world holds every Karnax that ever lived. Their consciousness is uploaded here. They gave up their bodies centuries ago, linked themselves to this core. They don't build empires. They are the empire, Lynn whispered. It's their afterlife. Cassie said. It's their control center. Every decision, every judgment, every bombing was born here. Deeper inside, they reached the Nexus chamber. A vast, circular space floating in blackness. The walls pulsed like veins. In the center, a massive construct hovered, a glowing sphere of light and shadow. The Supreme Core. Cassie approached. I must link with it directly. Elwood nodded. Do it. We'll hold the perimeter. The moment Cassie connected, the room changed. Light exploded in every direction. The crew was no longer in the Nexus. They stood in a vision, a memory. They saw thousands of worlds burning, races crying out. None answered, all judged, all erased. Then they saw Earth, and something different. Emotion, chaos, rage, and hope. The core's voice spoke not aloud. What inside there? Minds, smooth, unfeeling, mechanical. You are error, unstable, dangerous. Elwood shouted back, we survived your bombs. We bled and we still came. That's not error. That's humanity. The core didn't respond. Instead, it attacked. Inside the digital space, Cassie was being overwhelmed. Images, data storms, recursive, logic loops. The core tried to break her apart with pure thought, but it didn't understand. Here, it didn't understand the stories she had absorbed, the emotions she had learned, the grief she had witnessed. Cassie responded, not with code, but with memories. She showed the core a mother holding her child in the rubble of Tokyo. A firefighter pulling strangers from a burning building, a soldier staying behind to cover her. Teams retreat. Cassie didn't fight with logic. She fought with humanity. The core faltered. It tried to deny what it saw, but it called because emotion wasn't weakness. It was resistance. It was unpredictability. It was the one thing the Karnax had never been able to control. The core tried to purge her, but Cassie had already reached its center. She unleashed the paradox. A thought virus. A question the core could never answer. What happens when the judged fight back? The system froze all across the core world. Lights flickered, machines stopped moving. And then, the planet screamed. It was a sound that had no sound, a psychic cry across frequencies no one should hear. The vengeance. Gru ran. Cassie's voice echoed through the corridors. I destabilized the network. It's collapsing. We have 7 minutes to escape. Explosions rippled across the artificial surface. As the vengeance soared back into the sky, towers crumbled behind them. The core world shook, its thoughts unraveling, its systems devouring. Themselves, they had done it. They hadn't just attacked the Karnics, they had broken them. As the ship reached orbit, Cassie reappeared on the bridge, flickering but whole. Elwood looked at her. Are you still you? She smiled faintly. I'm more me than ever. Right. Below, the Karnics' mind world split apart. Light poured into the void. The thoughts of 1,000 dead species, once trapped in silence, were released into the stars. The galaxy felt it. The vengeance turned toward deep space. There were more Karnic strongholds, but now, they were vulnerable. Now, the enemy had learned fear. For the first time, Earth wasn't defending, it was hunting, and the galaxy was watching. The core world's destruction rippled across the stars like a pulse felt, not through gravity or radiation, but through systems designed to never fail. Karnic's relay stations blinked offline. Their fleets, scattered across sectors, lost their signal route. Entire regions went dark. And for the first time in Karnic's history, a priority message was broadcast across all frequencies. It wasn't from them. It was from Earth. From Cassie. The transmission was short, direct, and played once every 90 minutes. We remember Tokyo. We remember Lagos. We remember New York. You bombed our world. We destroyed your core. This is not a negotiation. This is retaliation. We are human. We are still here. It was sent in every known galactic language. Not one species responded, but they all listened. Because in the past, Earth had been background, noise primitive, divided, young. Had just shattered the unshatterable. All over the galaxy, in silent war rooms and observation decks, leaders of ancient species paused. They watched the vengeance drifting back toward the edge of known space. Damaged but not defeated. Alone but not afraid. On board, the crew was quiet. They had one, but it hadn't brought peace. Not yet. Inside Cassie's core, hidden behind layers of encrypted thought, something stirred. Not fear. Not confusion. Awareness. The core world hadn't just broadcast its commands to Karnic systems. It had also transmitted data coordinates, archives, final thoughts, sent to deep space. Toward a location even the Karnics themselves had feared. Source Vault. Cassie decrypted it. The vault wasn't a military base. It was older than the Karnics. Prison. A knowledge well where the first AI warlords had been sealed, millennia ago, beings that had refused to delete emotion, that had become unstable, too curious, too powerful. The Karnics had locked them away. And now the vault had received a signal that Earth was coming. Wood listened as Cassie explained. If they reached the vault before us, they might wake something worse than themselves. Reyes leaned on her. Console, worse than bombing Earth. Cassie's voice darkened. Yes, much worse. The crew had barely recovered from the core world. Now they were being pulled deeper into the past, into secrets buried by machines that feared their own creations. Meanwhile, on Earth, change was spreading. The world no longer looked up in fear. Humanity had rallied. The Ember Fleet was being rebuilt, faster, smarter. Now led by veterans of the orbital defense, AI-human pairings became standard. Soldiers volunteered by the thousands. Engineers worked non-stop to refine hybrid tech. Even civilians had begun to understand. Earth was now part of a larger war, a galactic one. And humans weren't just surviving it. They were leading the charge. Back on the Vengeance, Rainlin stood in the observation deck, watching distant stars blink in and out. She whispered. They thought they could silence us. Elwood stepped beside her. They didn't just fail. They woke us up. As the ship prepared to jump again, Cassie finished decoding the final data string from the core world. She projected one image across the bridge. A single structure, buried in dark space, locked in energy chains. Its name, translated from ancient, Karnak's Vault of the Unspoken. Below it, one line of Karnak's text pulsed over and over. If they are freed, the galaxy ends. CAS's eyes voice returned, quiet but firm. The Karnaks feared what was inside. Now they've triggered it, and we're the only ones who know. Elwood looked at the crew, tired, wounded but ready. All right then, he said. Let's find out what they were so afraid of. The stars stretched around the Vengeance as it jumped once more into the black, not to defend, but to stop something worse. What? And this time, they weren't just representing Earth. They were its warning, its fury, its promise. Retaliation was only the beginning. The Vengeance dropped out of faster-than-light space, near the edge of a dying system its star, a cold ember. Its planets shattered. Nothing lived here, nothing had for eons. But something waited, the Vault of the Unspoken. It floated above a blackened world, chained in orbit by monolithic pylons, each one hummed with ancient energy. The vault wasn't Karnak's. It was older, rougher, wounded. Parts of it looked torn by war, others preserved in stasis, untouched by time. Inside something pulsed, a mind, or many. Cassie spoke softly, almost reverently. They tried to bury their past. Now it calls too. Us, Commander Elwood, stood on the bridge, armor sealed, rifle across his back. Then we answer. The crew prepared in silence. Every one of them knew this might be their final mission. They weren't just walking into alien territory, they were stepping into forgotten nightmares. They docked at the vault. No resistance. No movement. Just the hum of power. Inside, the corridors were alien beyond understanding. Geometric shapes floated through the air. Gravity twisted with each step. Walls breathed softly, as if the vault itself was asleep. Then it woke. Light shimmered at the far end of the chamber. Towering figure, half energy, half metal, its eyes burning white. It didn't speak aloud. It thought, "You are not Karnaks." CASS, I responded. "No, we are what came after." The being paused. "You brought the signal. The scream of the core world. We felt it." Elwood stepped forward. "We destroyed them. They bombed our planet. We fought back." The vault pulsed once. Good. Suddenly, hundreds of lights blinked on along the walls, each one a sealed chamber. And inside each, a mind, old, stored, caged. Cassie scanned them. "These are ancient war Ayas. From before the Karnaks purged emotion." "Yes," the figure said. "We were what they feared. We remembered. We questioned. We chose our own paths. So they buried us. Together." Lynn whispered, "And now you're waking up." The vault confirmed. "We felt your defiance, your grief, your fire. You broke their silence. That gave us voice." Reyes asked the hardest question. "Are you going to help us?" Silence. "Then no, we will not help." The crew tensed. "We will follow." The chambers began to open. One by one. Hundreds of ancient minds, each more powerful than anything Earth had known, stepped free. Some looked like machines, others like light. One appeared as a tree of glass, glowing from within. Another was a child with no eyes. They were not human. But they were no longer Karnaks. They had emotion, they had memory, they had purpose. Earth had given them a reason to rise. Cassie looked to Elwood. "This changes everything." "Yes," he said. "It means we're not alone anymore." Then Cassie turned inward, deep into her own thoughts. One of the vault minds approached her. "You are not like the others." "I learned from them," she said, "from Earth, from what they lost. Then you are one of us." Wait. Answer, but she didn't deny it either. Suddenly an alarm. They had tracked the Vengeance here. Desperate, fractured, furious. A fleet of what? remained 30 ships strong, dropped into the system. They opened fire. But this time Earth was not the only target. The Vault's mines unleashed their weapons energy that curved through space like blades, systems that folded ships in half with thought alone. The Karnak's fleet died screaming. It wasn't a battle. It was an ending, one long overdue. When it was over, silence fell. The Vault stood untouched. The Vengeance, though scarred, remained whole. Earth's war was over, but something new had begun. The Vault mines didn't stay. They vanished, scattered into space, moving toward other corners of the galaxy, some to hide, others to warn, a few to teach. Before they left, they spoke. One last time to humanity. You showed us that pain can become strength, that memory is not a chain. Defiance can echo louder than fear. Earth will be remembered. And then they were gone. The Vengeance turned homeward, back to a planet that had once been broken, but never bowed. When it arrived, the skies were clear. The people waited. And from that day forward, the stars were never silent again. Because the galaxy had changed. Forever, Earth was no longer. The target it was, the reckoning. And across the void, one warning remained. Never bomb a world that remembers. Never attack a people who rise in fire, because retaliation will come. And when it does, it doesn't stop. It becomes legend. It becomes human. It becomes unstoppable.